Hey guys, what's up? It's Kruis here. I've now had the iPhone 11 for 8 months, so I thought I'd do a little review on it. I upgraded to the iPhone 11 from the iPhone 7 Plus, so I'll be doing a lot of comparisons from the 7 Plus to this. The main reason why I upgraded was for the ultra wide camera, and that definitely did not disappoint. One of the main differences when I first switched from the iPhone 7 Plus to the 11 was the screen size. Like, in a way, this screen does have a larger display, but when you're watching 16:9 content, which is a lot of content on YouTube, and video content is usually 16:9, it usually doesn't even take up the whole screen. So this is a video on the iPhone 11. You can see that the sides are cut off, which is pretty much the same thing as having bezels, because if you play a video on the iPhone 7 Plus, you have your black bars at the end too. So I wish the phone was made more for 16:9 content. And now I know a lot of YouTubers are doing a 2:1 aspect ratio so that it takes up more of the screen. But still, if you look at these two screens together, the content is actually larger on the iPhone 7 Plus. So that's something to keep in mind. I actually like the display better on the iPhone 7 Plus than I do on the iPhone 11. So if you're trying to upgrade for display, I don't think it's worth it. Let's talk about the notch. I never got used to the notch. Like, I still see it every single day and wish it wasn't there. Like, I hate the notch. And even my wallpapers, I have the wallpaper set up so it kind of hides the notch. One thing that really bugged me at first, and one thing that still does bug me, is you can't see the battery percentage right on the home screen. Because of the notch, there's no space for it. So you have to like swipe down in order to see the battery percentage. So for me, that's just so annoying. Like with the older phones, you can see everything up there, the battery percentage, your cellular service indicators and everything. With this, you have to swipe down to see more of that info, which I wish you could just see. Honestly, for me, I'd rather have just a bezel at the top than have a notch. I hope in the next version of the iPhones, hopefully they'll get rid of the notch soon. I feel like I hear a lot of other YouTubers that say they've gotten used to the notch. You won't see it after a while, but for me, like every time I always see the notch every day, especially when I'm watching videos, because sometimes I just want to see in full screen, but when you do your full screen video, you see the notch and you're just like, oh, I wish the notch wasn't there. So yeah, that's something to be thinking about. If you think you'll be someone that really doesn't like the notch, yeah, you probably won't like the notch. Another thing I was on the fence about when I bought the iPhone 11 was whether I should get the Pro or just the normal 11, and I ended up going with the 11 because I didn't see too much of an advantage to get the Pro. I think for me, it would be the main reason to get the Pro would be for the third camera. It is really nice to have that third camera, but I don't think it's worth the money just to upgrade to the Pro from the iPhone 11. So I'm really happy with the 11. The performance is super great, and it has the exact same processor and everything as the Pro. The only things that are the downside are it doesn't have the third camera, the more zoomed in lens, and it doesn't have an OLED screen. The screen resolution does not look any worse than the iPhone 7 Plus. The only thing that's different is if you had a plus size phone before, the screen is going to be a tiny bit smaller, or feel a tiny bit smaller on the 11. So if that's something you're wanting to upgrade to the Pro for, to get the iPhone 11 Pro Max, then that might be something to think about. But I'm really happy with the 11 and glad I didn't spend the extra money on the iPhone 11 Pro. Touch ID versus Face ID. I really like Face ID. I like Face ID a lot better than Touch ID. I think maybe one reason, it doesn't detect my fingerprint all the time, especially if my fingers are a little bit sweaty or they're a little bit wet. It just doesn't work as fast for me as Touch or Face ID. Face ID just works so fast in almost every situation. But of course, during this time when we're wearing masks and stuff, it doesn't work. So that would be a plus to have Touch ID still. But honestly, I enjoy Face ID a lot better than Touch ID. It's a lot faster, and especially when you're making purchases or signing into your bank accounts or other accounts, it's really easy to open. You don't have to like press your thumb on it and wait for it to open, because I still feel like sometimes it just doesn't open like all of the time like that. See? Touch ID, you're so annoying. There we go, now it's open. Like, even though Touch ID is fast, I think it still doesn't work all of the time, whereas Face ID works way more of the time for me than it does with Touch ID. So that's something to think about if you're like on the fence about Face ID. I think it's really good actually. And I think it's very secure. Definitely doesn't work if I have a mask on, or like even if I'm chewing food or whatever, it's not gonna open. But yeah, I haven't had any problem with Face ID or any frustrations with Face ID. Face ID! Another thing that's gone now with the iPhone 11 series is 3D Touch. Now, I did think it was a useful feature and it works really well, like on the iPhone 7 Plus doing touch. But you still sort of have that feature on the 11. It's just kind of like a long press instead, and you still have that haptic feedback. So for me, it's not a huge deal. Like, it was really nice having 3D touch, but for me, it's not a deal breaker. It's not something that I was like, oh, I wish I had it so badly back that I can't use the 3D touch features. But it works pretty well. Like, you just press kind of hard as you would with 3D touch. So that definitely is not a deal breaker for me. The battery life on the iPhone 11 is way better than the battery life that I had on the iPhone 7 Plus. Like, if I'm not doing heavy usage, this will definitely last all day with like 40% remaining. But if I do watch like a ton of YouTube videos and do some editing, photo editing, maybe some video editing for Insta stories and stuff, I usually do have to charge it about once midway through the day. So I always usually start at 100% in the morning. I charge it overnight, and then like if I do heavy usage, once it gets down to like 60%, 50%, I'll charge it back up to 80%, because that's what I heard is like a healthy battery to keep it between 60 and 80%. So that's what I usually do, and then usually it'll last the rest of the day once it's back at 80%. So the battery life is really good, especially if you're not like a heavy user, and even if you are a heavy user, you'll probably only have to charge it once throughout the day. I think the biggest thing for the iPhone 11 is the wide angle lens. Honestly, I think it's a game changer, especially for vloggers. It is really, 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 really super duper useful, I think. Because yeah, the quality is really good and the stabilization is amazing. Like, I didn't think the stabilization would be this good. It works almost like a gimbal. Honestly, you don't need a gimbal if you're using the iPhone 11 ultra wide lens. Like, it's so smooth, you can get really smooth shots with it. The biggest downside with it though is low light. Like, even if you're indoors, the quality of the footage starts to fall apart just a little bit. But the thing is, you can still vlog because you have your light built in, your LED flashlight, so you can still vlog in the dark. You turn on the flashlight, you talk. So if you're someone that is just kind of like a reality vlogger, vlogging your life, this is definitely the perfect tool for you. And the quality is so good. They have the HDR features in the video is so amazing, and the way the exposure changes when you're on auto exposure is very, very smooth. You can't really tell that you're changing exposures. So we're in previous versions of the iPhone, even the iPhone 7 Plus, if I were to take video and use auto exposure, you would kind of see it like jitter when it changes exposure. What I mean is, like, if you're in a dark place, you go outside and your iPhone changes exposure, you're gonna see like kind of it goes, you'll see it change exposure basically. But somehow with the iPhone 11, the software, the hardware optimization, or whatever features they put in, like when you go from a dark place to a lighter place, it somehow looks so smooth. You can't see the change in exposure as much. And then also the dynamic range, because of the HDR in video mode, it's so crazy. Like, it is really good quality. I can't believe it. So if you're a vlogger that's not really trying to do like crazy cinematic footage, if you're kind of doing reality vlogging, I think this iPhone 11 is the tool that you should buy. Because you could also even do your video editing straight on the phone too, because that is really fast. Video editing is really fast. I made a video just a couple of weeks ago about editing 4K H.265 10-bit footage on my iPhone, and it actually kind of outperforms my laptop, which is crazy. So this is a very powerful phone. The specs are really great. I use Adobe Lightroom on here too. Like, even for client work, as I'm travel a lot, I'll use Adobe Lightroom on the go and just edit right on my phone, straight from the camera, plug it in, cull through photos right away on location. So and then do some editing right in Lightroom too, and this phone is really good for that. It's really quick, and the screen, it looks great to me. Like, I can't really tell that much of a quality difference with the screen. I don't even think it's a 1080p screen, but I can't really tell. To me, the quality looks really great. So I'm not sure what kind of technology they're using, but like, it's really hard to tell that it's not a 1080p screen. The iPhone 11 has a fast charge feature now, but you're supposed to have a separate like power supply brick and then also a separate cable for that to actually work. But what I found actually works is if I use just like the 10-watt iPad charger brick, and it charges so much quicker. Using that 10-watt iPad charger with the lightning cable that comes in the box with the phone, it definitely charges a lot faster than it does with the power supply and the lightning cable that comes in the box. And even with this power bank that I have, which is a 2.4 volt output, it charges a lot faster than it does with a normal like small power supply that comes in the box with the iPhone. So that's something that I haven't really heard any other review mention. So that's something to think about if you're trying to get your phone to charge faster. It definitely charges fast. Is this like a hack or something? Or maybe it's like a medium speed than the fast charger. Like if you get the actual fast charger thing, then it'll charge like ultra fast. And then what I'm doing with the 10-watt iPad charger is like a medium fast charge. I'm not sure, but it definitely charges faster with the right power supply. In conclusion, if you still haven't bought in the iPhone 11 yet, you might as well just wait for the 12, which is probably going to be coming out later this year. But if you're just interested in what I think about the iPhone 11, thanks so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are if you have the iPhone 11 or the iPhone 11 Pro. I definitely am thankful I didn't upgrade to the 10, 10R. I'm not someone that upgrades their phone that often. I went from the 7 Plus to the 11, and I think that was definitely a very noticeable upgrade for me, especially for the camera, the speed, and the battery life. Those are my top 3 pros why I really like this phone. Hopefully that was helpful and interesting to you. Let me know what you thought, and thanks so much for watching. That's gonna be it for this video. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Another thing that's gone now with the iPhone 11, Press ID, 3D touch. Another thing that's gone now with the iPhone 11,